How to customize the Jackson JSON mapper, implicitly used by Spring Boot introduction. In Spring Boot, JSON conversion usually happens automatically. For example, Java object means JSON response. JSON request means Java object. This automatic conversion is usually handled by Jackson, which Spring Boot configures behind the scenes. That is why many developers ask, how do I customize the Jackson JSON mapper implicitly used by Spring Boot? This is important when you want to control date formatting, no handling field naming strategy, serialization rules, deserialization behavior, custom serializers, deserializers. Understanding this helps you make your APIs cleaner, more consistent, and easier to integrate with front-end or other services. What does implicitly used Jackson JSON mapper mean? It means the object mapper that Spring Boot automatically creates and uses internally for JSON processing. In simple terms, Spring Boot auto-configures Jackson means that mapper is used for REST APIs. Example concept. Controller returns object means Spring Boot uses ObjectMapper, means JSON response sent. You do not manually call Jackson in most cases, but Spring Boot is using it for you internally. Why this is important? By default, Spring Boot's Jackson setup is good for most applications. But in real projects, you often need customization, such as format local datetime differently, ignore null values, serialize enums a certain way, change property naming to snake case, register custom modules. Example concept. Default JSON output means may not match business API requirements. So customization helps you align JSON behavior with your application needs. How Spring Boot uses Jackson. When Spring Boot sees Jackson on the class path, it automatically configures JSON support, REST controller at response body, request body parsing, response body serialization. Example concept. Spring Boot plus Jackson dependency means automatic JSON conversion enabled. The main class involved is com.fastener.jackson.databind.objectMapper. That is the mapper you customize. Main ways to customize Jackson in Spring Boot. Common approaches include application.properties or application.yml, defining an ObjectMapper bean using Jackson 2 ObjectMapper Builder Customizer, registering modules using annotations like @JSON format, @JSON ignore, @JSON property. Example concept. Global config plus bean customization plus annotations equals full Jackson control. Method 1. Customize with application.properties. Spring Boot exposes many Jackson settings through configuration. Example, spring.jackson.default property inclusion equals non-null. Spring.jackson.serialization.indent output equals true. Spring.jackson property naming strategy equals snake case. Spring.jackson serialization.write dates as timestamps equals false. Example concept. Properties file means Spring Boot applies Jackson settings automatically. What these do. Non-null means skips null fields. Indent output true means pretty JSON. Snake case means first name becomes first name. Write dates as timestamps false means human readable dates instead of timestamps. This is the simplest way to do global customization. Method 2. Customize with application.yml. Same thing in YAML format. Spring, Jackson, default property inclusion, non-null serialization, indent output true, write dates as timestamps false, property naming strategy, snake case. Example concept. YAML config means global Jackson behavior customized. Method 3. Define a custom object mapper bean. You can define your own object mapper bean. Example, import com.fasterxml.jackson.databind ObjectMapper. Import com.fasterxml.jackson.databind serialization feature. Import com.fasterxml.jackson.annotation. JSON include. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.bean. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.configuration. Configuration, public class, Jackson config. @bean, public ObjectMapper ObjectMapper. ObjectMapper mapper equals new ObjectMapper. Mapper.set serialization inclusion. JSON include non-null. Mapper enables serialization feature indent output. Mapper disables serialization feature write dates as timestamps. Return mapper. A. Example concept. Custom object mapper bean means Spring Boot uses it for JSON processing. This gives you full programmatic control. Important note about defining object mapper bean. When you define your own object mapper bean, you may replace part of Spring Boot's default Jackson setup. That means you should be careful not to lose useful auto-configured behavior unless you intentionally want full control. Example concept. Custom bean means more control, but also more responsibility. Method 4. Use Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer. A very Spring Boot-friendly way is to customize the builder instead of fully replacing the mapper. Example import org.springframework.context.annotation.bean. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.configuration. Import org.springframework.htt.converter.json. Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer. Import com.fatsjackson.annotation.json include. Import com.fatsjackson.databind serialization feature. Configuration public class Jackson config. Bean public Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer JSON customizer. Return builder builder.serialization inclusion JSON include non-null. Builder.features to enable serialization feature indent output. Builder.features to disable serialization feature write dates as timestamps. Example concept. Customize Spring Boot's Jackson builder means keep boot integration clean. This approach is often better than replacing the entire mapper bean. Why Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer is often better. It lets you customize the mapper that Spring Boot is already building for you. So you keep Boot's auto configuration, Boot's module registration, Boot's message converter integration. Example concept. Builder Customizer means change behavior without fully replacing Boot defaults. Method 5. Register Java time module for Java 8 datetime types. If you use local date, local time, local datetime, you often want custom date formatting. Example import com.fafinet.jackson.datatype.jsr310 Java time module. Import com.fafinet.jackson.datatype.jsr310.sir local datetime serializer. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.bean. Import org.springframework.context.annotation configuration. org.springframework.http converter.json. Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer. Import Java time format, date time formatter. Configuration public class Jackson config. Bean public Jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer, JSON customizer. Return builder. Java time module is new Java time module. Module add serializer. JavaTime.localDatetime.class. New local datetime serializer. Datetime formatter.ofPattern. YYYMMD. HHMNSS. Builder modules. Module. Example concept. Custom date module means local datetime JSON format. Controlled globally. Method 6. Register a custom serializer. You can create your own serializer for a type. Example serializer. Import com.fasterself.jackson.core JSON generator. Import com.fasterself.databind JSON serializer. Import com.fasterself.json databind serializer provider. Import java.io.io exception. Public class uppercase string serializer extends JSON serializer of string. Override public void serialize string value JSON generator gen serializer provider serializers throws IO exception. Gen.write string value equals null. Null value to uppercasing. Register it import com.fasterself.jackson.databind.module.simplemodule. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.bean. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.configuration. Import org.springframework.http.converter.json.jackson 2 Object Mapper Builder Customizer. Configuration public class Jackson config. At bean public Jackson2 ObjectMapper Builder Customizer, JSON Customizer. Return builder A's. Simple module is new simple module. Module.add serializer, string class, new uppercase string serializer. Builder modules module. Example concept. Custom serializer registered means JSON output behavior changed globally. Method 7. Register a custom deserializer. You can also customize how JSON input becomes Java objects. Example deserializer. Import com.fasterself.jackson.core JSON parser. Import com.fasterself.jackson.databind.deserialization context. Import com.fasterself.jackson.deserializer. Import java.io.io exception. Public class. Trimmed string deserializer extends JSON deserializer of string. Override public string deserialize JSON parser p deserialization context ctxt throws IO exception. String value p.getValue as string. Return value equals null trim. Example concept. Incoming JSON value means custom deserializer means processed before reaching Java object. This is useful when request JSON needs normalization or special parsing. Method 8. Use Jackson annotations for field-level customization. Sometimes you do not want global customization. You only want to change one field or one class. Example. Import com.fastrel.jackson.annotation.json format. Import com.fastrel.jackson.annotation.json ignore. Import com.fastrel.jackson.annotation.json property. Public class user response. JSN property. Username, private string username. .json ignore, private string password. JSO format, pattern equals YYYMMDD.HHMSS. Private java.time local date time created at -getters and setters. Example concept. Annotations means class-specific JSON customization. This is perfect when only selected fields need special handling. Method 9. Change naming strategy globally. If your API should return snake case instead of camel case. Example, Spring Jackson property naming strategy equals snake case. Then, private string first name becomes first name John. Example concept. Java camel case means JSON snake case automatically. Method 10. Ignore null fields globally. If you want cleaner JSON responses. Example Spring.Jackson default property inclusion equals non-null. Example output. Before name John, email null. Example concept. Null values skipped means cleaner JSON. Method 11. Pretty print JSON. For development or debugging. Spring Jackson.serialization.indent output true. Example concept. Pretty formatting means easier to read JSON responses. This is useful for debugging, though many production APIs keep compact JSON. Real-world example. Suppose you want all APIs to skip nulls, use snake case, return readable local datetime application. Jackson. Default property inclusion, non-null, property naming strategy, snake case, serialization, write dates as timestamps, false. Java config import, com.fatmara.jackson.datatype.jsr310 Java time module, com.**datatype.jsr310.ser local datetime serializer. Import org spring framework.context.annotation bean. Import org spring framework.context.annotation.configuration. Import org spring framework.http converter.json.jackson2 ObjectMapper builder customizer. Import java.time.format datetime formatter. Configuration public class Jackson config. Bean public Jackson2 ObjectMapper builder customizer JSON customizer. Return builder. Java time module is new Java time module. Module.add serializer. Java time local datetime class. New local datetime serializer. Datetime formatter of pattern. YYYMMS SS. Builder modules module. Example concept. Properties plus builder customization means consistent global JSON behavior. Common mistakes. 1. Replacing ObjectMapper completely without re-registering needed modules. This can break Java 8 date-time support or other boot defaults. Example concept. Custom mapper too aggressively means useful boot defaults lost. Using only annotations when global behavior is needed. This leads to repeated configuration everywhere. 3. Using only global config when one field class needs special handling. This can over-customize the whole API. 4. Forgetting to disable timestamp date serialization. Then, Java time values may appear in formats you do not want. 5. Mixing conflicting config styles. For example, 1. Global naming strategy. Annotations that contradict it. Manual serialization elsewhere. This can make API behavior inconsistent. Best practices. Best practices include use application.properties, application.yml for simple global settings. Use Jackson ObjectMapper Builder Customizer for programmatic global tuning. Use annotations for field-level or class-level exceptions. Avoid replacing the entire object mapper unless necessary. Keep date-time formatting consistent across APIs. Document your API JSON conventions clearly. Example concept. Simple global config plus targeted overrides equals clean Jackson customization strategy. Advantages of customizing Jackson properly. Advantages include consistent API responses, cleaner date-time formatting, better front-end compatibility, easier integration with external systems, cleaner null handling, improved readability and maintainability. Example concept. Better JSON customization means better API quality challenges. Challenges include deciding between global and local customization, avoiding conflicts between annotations and global config, preserving Spring Boot defaults when customizing, handling complex types like Java time, enums, and nested objects. Example concept. JSON looks simple means mapper customization can still become complex. Concepts learned. By learning this topic, you understand what the implicitly used Jackson mapper is in Spring Boot, how Spring Boot auto-configures JSON conversion, how to customize Jackson with properties or YAML, how to use Jackson ObjectMapper Builder Customizer, how to define a custom object mapper bean, how to register custom serializers, deserializers, and modules, how to use annotations for targeted customization. Simple definition. Customizing the Jackson JSON mapper implicitly used by Spring Boot. The process of changing the behavior of Spring Boot's automatically configured object mapper, so JSON serialization and deserialization match your application's needs. Final summary. Spring Boot automatically configures a Jackson object mapper and uses it internally for JSON request response processing. You can customize that implicit mapper in several ways. Simple global settings in application.properties or application.yml, programmatic tuning with Jackson ObjectMapper Builder Customizer, full control by defining an object mapper bean, targeted changes with Jackson annotations like @JSON format, @JSON ignore, and @JSON property. For most applications, the best approach is use config files for simple global options. Use Jackson ObjectMapper Builder Customizer for global advanced tuning. Use annotations for field-specific behavior. That gives you strong control while still keeping Spring Boot's JSON integration clean and reliable.